next up from here in New York at Columbia, it's good to see Matthea Marquart and also Krystal Folk from the Columbia University School of Social Work. And they're going to talk to us about planning interactive hybrid special events that actively connect and engage online and in-person attendees together, which is something we want to hear about today and years into the future, the way things are going. So this is not just for today, but one that's going to matter for a long time to come. So on that, I'll turn it over to Matthea. It's great to see you.
Thank you, David. It's really nice to see you. And thank you, Yuden, as well. So I see Krystal and Melissa are getting promoted now. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Here we go. Share. All right. And hopefully everyone can see the slides okay. All right, great. So Krystal's going to open us up. And I think that she is getting her webcam going. Nice. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience as I just finalized my technology. That's what we're used to now in this world of virtual and hybrid learning. So my name is Krystal Folk. I'm a live support specialist at Columbia School of Social Work. What that means is I'm also a social worker, but I help with the technical side of different events and classes, such as a hybrid special event that we're going to talk about. And I'm also here with Matthea and Melissa, and we're going to talk to you about planning interactive hybrid special events. So again, this should look familiar. This is what our presentation is on, and we're going to go into more detail now. We're going to start with our agenda. So we're going to do a welcome and introductions. Then we're going to talk about the difference between live stream in-person events and hybrid special events. We're going to give you an example of one of our special hybrid event, the Stephen P. Schenke Award reception. Then we're going to have a wrap up. We're going to thank you, and we're going to have time for Q&A. So I'm going to pass it over to Matthea to introduce herself.
Thank you, Krystal. So I'm really excited to be here with you. My name is Matthea Marquart. I'm the Assistant Dean for Online Education at the School of Social Work. And I've got a couple options here if you'd like to connect. I would love to connect with you.
And again, my name is Krystal Folk. I'm a live support specialist at Columbia for the online campus. And I'm going to pass it off to Melissa.
Thanks, Krystal. I'm Melissa Thompson, and I'm a clinical assistant professor and online learning coordinator at Dominican University, but I am also an adjunct assistant professor at the online social work program at Columbia.
So we're going to tell you what's in store for you. We're going to, again, discuss the difference between a live stream event and a hybrid event. We're going to give you that example. We invite you to share your ideas, to ask any questions, and take any of this information to add to your toolkit for remote or hybrid learning or events. To give you a little bit of background of Columbia's online program. So we have a fully online Masters of Science social work program where we offer 4 options, like it says, clinical, generalists, and the management track, as well as policy. The first online cohort launched in fall 2015, and our first sets of graduates graduated in May 2017. The model is based off of weekly synchronous classes in Adobe Connect, and then we have asynchronous work, and we use Canvas as the platform for all assignments and coursework. So these are some of the events that we have going on, or some of the programs that we offer. The Institute of Pedagogy and Technology for online courses. That's our course where we teach people how to teach online. So that's something that we're really proud of. As you can see, we have publications and we've presented at other conferences, and we also have rewards. Again, the same thing for our Institute of Technical Skills and online event production. That's actually one that I am honored to say I co-facilitate, and it's teaching other people like myself how to be a live support specialist. We also have an online faculty development series for all of our staff and faculty members to learn new ways to handle this remote environment that we're in. And when COVID first hit, we did have a webinar series for educators moving to a remote setting due to the pandemic.
All right, thank you so much, Krystal. And if you're interested in the slides, we're happy to share them. They have downloadable links or clickable links so that you can check out any of our resources. So thinking about the difference between live streamed events that are in person versus hybrid special events, you might be familiar with on-campus events or lectures where somebody can join by watching through live stream, or maybe they're using Zoom or different platforms. And when that's the case, the online participants can see and hear what's happening, and they can usually chat amongst themselves, and they can usually chat with the event hosts. So if the participants have a question, they can chat it to the event host, and the event host will pass it along to the speakers. But that's about it. For the special events we're going to talk about, the participants who are remote actually can also communicate amongst themselves through mic and webcam, and they can communicate directly with in-person participants through mic and webcam, and they can participate in group photos as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense about the difference. So one example is a graduation reception that we planned for our online campus graduates. So you can see there are folks in person, and then there's also folks who joined through Zoom here, and they're on a big screen, and we can take pictures with them, and they can talk amongst themselves as well. Some of you might be thinking, oh, this sounds familiar. Isn't that the same as HighFlex? And it kind of is similar to HighFlex. So our school has piloted versions of HighFlex teaching. HighFlex is when you have students who are in person and students who are online in the same course. So if you'd like to learn more about our pilots, we have links here. And you can see that it's a little bit more complex than just teaching online or just teaching in person, because you're trying to bring people together into one community. Okay, so going into our example special event. So the special event we're going to talk about is the Stephen P. Schenke Awards reception. And there's an article about this reception if you'd like to read more about it. Here's a picture of all the honorees. You might notice that Melissa is here. She was one of our remote honorees. She's up in the upper right corner there. So we're excited to hear her perspectives on this. So the Stephen P. Schenke Awards were created in honor of Professor Stephen P. Schenke, who I had the great honor of working directly with for many years. He was the founding director of our online campus. So we continue to be influenced by him, and we wanted to remember his legacy. So the school created this awards program to celebrate innovative teaching and also innovative students. The program for the ceremony included a reception period and then a ceremony period. And the reception included networking for online and in-person attendees to be able to talk with each other. And the ceremony part included speakers, awards, and photographs. And we'll tell you a little bit about that now. So here's a networking station. You can see what this looked like. So we had a computer set up with a speaker and a microphone so that folks who were in person could talk directly with folks who were online. And if folks who were online wanted to talk privately, we had an online event moderator who could put them into breakout rooms in Zoom so that they could chat. And we felt like that was a nice way to create a networking opportunity that was more than just typed chat for people who we wanted to honor, or in case families wanted to come and just cheer someone on remotely. And it ended up being really fun. You can see that we're chatting with people directly here. In terms of the room setup, so we had the in-person setup as usual, but we also needed a screen setup, and the screen needed to be able to show slides. So you can see we had the award ceremony greeting there, and then also be able to transition to different windows. So we had Zoom set up as well. And the room webcam and microphones had to feed into Zoom so that the online participants could see and hear everything once the ceremony got started. And we had an in-person Zoom host who monitored the chat and also communicated with the online event moderator. And that way we could make sure that the online folks could still see and hear everything when we were going through different transitions in the program. When we honored the award winners, you can see what it looks like for an in-person awardee or an online awardee. And it's the same person giving out the award. That's our Associate Dean of Innovation, Desmond Patton. And the in-person Zoom host enlarged the webcam image of the honoree if they were an online honoree so that they could be featured in the room. And we mailed these certificates to the remote honorees along with a copy of the reception program after the event. And then in terms of group photos, we took a whole group photo, which you saw earlier, but we also took photos that were for different groups. So here is a group of instructors who won the Innovation Teaching Awards, Innovative Teaching Awards. And we used Zoom breakout groups to make that happen. So the in-person Zoom host was in charge of making sure that the right breakout group was projected on the screen. And that made it very customized so we could take pictures together. All right, so I'm going to hand over to Melissa.
So thanks, Matthea. I'm so grateful to be here. I love the work that I do at Columbia. I want to highlight a couple things about Columbia and the School of Social Work. As an online educator, I came to know Columbia through the Institute of Pedagogy, and I completed that. And then I've been able to come to the Faculty Development Center sessions that they have each month or every other month. And I tell you that as far as this event goes, because part of the reason this is so successful is the culture at Columbia and the culture in the online program. So there's lots of things we do together. There's lots of opportunities to feel a sense of community. And I really believe that that fed into why this event was highly effective. People were very excited in the communication we got. I really am very dressed up there. And one of the things I had told my colleagues online is in my kitchen was appetizers and, champagne and all that, because we were really excited. And we even made, decorations that were the color of Columbia because I was so honored to receive this award. But I never felt excluded. I felt like I was in the room. People did come up to the network thing and talk with each other. So my colleagues that were on the ground in New York talked about, how they were excited and what innovation award they were winning for and what they were doing. And the sense of community was just phenomenal, whether you were in the Zoom rooms with the people you knew or you were present with the full community in Zoom. So this really can be done and have a powerful impact on people. I couldn't wait for the mail to come. I appreciate it's just a certificate, but my connection to Columbia runs really deep. And part of it is this sense of community that's built every step of the way when you come into this online program. And the opportunity for me to win an Innovating Teaching Award really happened because of my work at Columbia and the opportunities that they provide me.
Thank you so much. And I just loved hearing the story of how you got dressed up and were like really into it. I think you might have dressed up more than the people who came in person, actually.
It was wonderful. It was such an honor to be part. I love my work at Columbia, but I can't say enough about the work that Columbia does to make everyone feel like they're part of Columbia and that we can be the best we can be. And it's because of this innovation. You saw a previous slide with all the awards this program has won and the articles they've written and the powerful work they did when COVID happened to help anyone in the world learn how to teach online. So I encourage you to make time to read about the program itself.
Thank you so much, Melissa. All right, I'm going to hand over to Krystal, who's going to share some additional feedback.
Yes, and thank you again, Melissa, for sharing your experience. And I have to say that the quotes that we received for this presentation mimic some of the same things you've already mentioned. Christiana Reyes mentions that this is one of her first hybrid events that she ever attended, and she was able to use this as a model for when things kind of took a turn due through the COVID pandemic, and how she was able to actually be present at the award ceremony, which she wasn't going to be able to do if it wasn't in a hybrid event. And Nicasia Scott mentioned how she felt included even though she was remote. She said it felt like she was in the room, and it felt like she was able to have like a mixer/social hour afterwards, and how heartwarming it was that people in person were coming up and saying hi and making sure that everyone remote was welcomed. And then some perspectives from people who were actually in person talking about the event, Marisha talked about how this was a lovely way to celebrate Professor Schenke or Dr. Schenke, because like Matthea mentioned, he was kind of like the one leading the online program before. So she thought it was a great way to bring technology into the room and allow people to be connected, because that's what his legacy is about. Elizabeth mentioned that she was deeply honored to receive this award and how it felt like all of the back end logistics were invisible, even though she was in the room and she was able to see what was happening. It kind of just felt very loose and everything was great. And then Zulika also mentioned that she was able to model this in her classroom and in her events as well, because it worked so seamlessly as she was able to take notes and bring it into her personal use. So again, the slides will be available for you to read the full quotes. Clearly our participants loved coming to the event because I didn't have time to read all of the quotes, so please do check out the slides afterwards.
Thank you so much, Krystal. So thinking about applications for your organization, for your school or organization, there are some things that, especially now as we're transitioning from lots of people working primarily remotely to starting to come back to the office, but kind of transitioning in phases, this is something to think about, and we hope this model will be useful as you think about ways to engage your staff, your faculty, your students together as one community. So as Melissa said, we really care about community at Columbia and hope that this is useful for all of you too. So if you're thinking about events that might be inclusive of folks with different abilities or disabilities, different health issues, different geographic locations, different caregiving responsibilities, cost, things like that, you can create special events that involve or include everybody. And that's a really nice thing that we've learned, especially this year due to the pandemic. You can also think about uses for this. So maybe if you're at a university, you're thinking about ways to do course completion or culminating events. Maybe there are student journals that can do a celebration in this way, or special guest speakers that you could do something like this with. Maybe you want to do networking events or showcases or things like that. So we hope that there will be applications for all of you. All right. So that takes us through our agenda, and we've got some time for some Q&A. And also we can ask each other questions too, but I'll keep an eye on the Q&A box and on the chat as well.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for other questions. One thing I'm kind of a little bit curious about, because I know you said you use Zoom, and we're obviously using Zoom here. And obviously things went well, and we certainly hope things are going well here. But are there things that you find as you look forward to the future that Zoom doesn't provide, that you would like Zoom to have provided, that there are other tools you would look for? There's some things that came up that you say, I really wish we could add this in some kind of future version of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one interesting tool that I recently saw was Wonder, and that's an overlay onto Zoom. So you still use Zoom as the base, but then it creates visual rooms, and participants at events can move themselves into different rooms, and they can see who's in the different rooms and what the topics are for the different rooms. And I think that is something that maybe other companies will be developing soon as well. So ways to kind of supplement the basic Zoom, which is very useful, and we all are pretty comfortable with it, it seems by now, and it has wide reach. But at the same time, there are some ways that it could be a little more friendly feeling or community feeling. So that was one application that I saw that could be a nice addition.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good to know. And you would think there'll be more other tools that kind of run on top of Zoom, right? Because Zoom, I know, also offers an API, so there's some way you can connect to it programmatically, and so you might see other interfaces where Zoom is handling the things that it definitely does that are you can't really build from scratch in any kind of reasonable time frame, with the video and the making sure everything runs well and smoothly in HD and all that, and then build different interfaces on top of that, which might be an interesting thing to consider doing. So Yeah, so I'll put that on my project list for, behind the other 10 things that are on it now. Great. Well, yeah, I'm still looking for other questions. If there's other stuff you guys want to tell us in the meantime, sound like you had some
I would
other
like to share
questions,
one
talk to
thing
each
with you,
other.
David,
Yes,
if it's
please.
okay. So as a person on Columbia's faculty, one thing I think would be interesting to explore, classes are delivered in Adobe Connect, but when we're working as an instructor at Columbia, I'm working with someone who's running the technology behind the scenes. So I can definitely, I've taught for a long time on Zoom, but the idea of having someone taking care of the technology piece would allow a hybrid event like this to be most successful. So if you were an individual trying to do an employee recognition event, for example, you really do need a team of people, even if you're very comfortable with Zoom, that are driving some of that technology so that you can be a present host, for example. If you're, we're going into this room, and this room is, these are the winners of the development team, and we're going to go over there. You do need some technology support in an event like this, that you don't want one individual responsible for it all.
Yeah, no, good point. Definitely true. I mean, it's true. If you may know, it's true here. We have someone behind the scenes on every stream, as well as, and one person on camera in every stream, plus the presenter. So yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good point. And that's, it gets easier and easier to manage, but I agree. It's really hard. It's sort of just cognitively to bounce back and forth. You get worried about too many things and you can't fully focus on, on the questions and what you're doing. So
Right.
yeah, that's a great
And
point.
going off of what Melissa stated, I'm actually that tech person. I'm one of the live support specialists, that's what we're called, who's able to help out in the classrooms or in events like that. And this is going to be, I believe, my fourth year. Matthea, correct me if I'm wrong, my fourth year doing it. The special thing about the position is, in order to qualify for a live support specialist, you have to be a social worker. So I'm actually a graduate of CSSW. So I have the degree. And I'm able to provide crisis intervention, because believe me, if we learned anything throughout this year, is when your technology doesn't work, it is a crisis sometimes, because you're trying to keep going, keep everything smoothly. So it's definitely a great role to be in. That's how I was able to connect back to the community. And I tell Matthea all the time, she has me until she wants to get rid of me. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. And I get to meet so many new people and be part of different events, such as the hybrid event. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I was there for that graduation. I remember those balloons and decorating that and everything. So yeah, it's a great role. And that's why we have the Tech Institute, doing a little plug, because I do that, the Tech Institute, in order to get more people like me to join.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that sounds great. And so I guess, I mean, looking ahead, what's all of your sense of the next year, as people start to transition away, as they already are, from conferences and events the way that this one is now, which we were kind of on the fence for a while. As you may know, we were holding out until maybe March, thinking like, let's see how things go. Maybe we can have some people in person. And it just got a little bit too tight. But so as there's this transition back to away from Zoom only events, away from online only events, how do you see that transition working? Are there other things that you think people who are new with this need to know as they kind of start to migrate back into this, but also ahead, because it's kind of a new world, right? It's not exactly, you're not just going back to the way it was, it's a little in between, and it's a whole set of different issues. So just curious to hear your perspectives on, people who do not have your experience yet, and what they might, want to think about as they start to, like it or not, probably take some steps into this world in the next year or so.
Matthea, do you want to comment?
Sure. I think of this as a social justice issue. I mean, we're a school of social work, and social justice is a big part of social work. And I know that disability activists were saying for years and years and years, please include us more in your in-person events. People who don't have the same mobility as folks who can easily travel, we're saying, like, come up with ways to include us as much as, for all of your events, and as much as you can. So I feel like these special events, these hybrid special events, can really be a way not just to handle folks who prefer to work remotely or who need to work remotely due to COVID flare up in the region or something like that, but also in an ongoing way. Now we've seen that it really is possible to make events inclusive and bring folks in, even if they can't be there in person. And I also, one thing that we thought about doing after this event where we were like, okay, next time, here's how we're going to improve. We thought about getting a mobile station. So taking an iPad and walking that around the reception as well, so that the folks who were on the other side could sort of be in the room as well. And I know there are robots that can do that. You can get them on wheels, but a cheaper way to do that is to have a person walking the iPad around.
So I
Yeah,
just
they-
wanted to jump in here because one of the things I would say, Matthea covered the social justice. So certainly there's 3 social workers here presenting to you. That's a big issue. But let's talk about this from a business perspective. I see this as a retention opportunity. So whether or not you're going to stay fully online, as you slowly move people in to the office space, for example, this type of work supports the family that now has a good balance of caregiving, for example, or is facing caregiving issues, and they can feel included in a team meeting. I think that I don't think this is going to be really quick. I hope it's not. I hope that employers look and move slowly at how we bring people back into workspaces and look at this as an opportunity to be highly creative, which the event itself was, but how do we use this type of technology to not only work with people that are facing issues and challenges in the disability community, but people who do really effective work at home. And how do we make sure that they're included and rewarded? And so again, the idea of what's happened, it sits on the foundation of strong community building. And so if you haven't built strong community inside your organization, what a wonderful time to do that. And this is a way to start doing it if you haven't. But it's also, I think this is if you want to be in the forefront as an organization, you want to be doing these things and not pushing really hard on your employees to come back to that face-to-face office.
No, that makes sense. And for an event like ours, which is not, obviously within an organization, when you're hitting kind of a wider audience, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are able to attend this that simply couldn't, for other reasons, wouldn't have been able to come to New York. It's one thing for me to go uptown, and take a little longer train ride than I might in some other time, and that's about it. But for somebody coming from far away, I mean, can you even just be out of the office for an entire week to come overseas? Because you can't really come here from overseas and not take the full week, even if the conference is just a few in-person days and things like that. So there's another level there too, I think, of people who are, just unable due to life and work constraints to get away that easily. And it's interesting. There's, I guess, one last question before we wrap up and head to the break. What was your sense of were there differences in the ways that people participated, right? Like, for example, one thing that we see in an online conference is people do come in and out a little bit more, right? Like, it's easier to do. You want to drop off, something happens, you just go. You don't, you wouldn't stand up and walk out of a room, but you do that online. Also, everybody thinks you're busy when you're in a room, right? Like, no one's going to bother you. I'm at an event, I'm busy. But when you're sitting at home in front of a camera on Zoom, or at least if you're just watching and you're sitting watching someone else, you don't seem as obviously busy, whether it's work people or home people. So I'm curious to know what your experience was in terms of, how it was for the 2 different groups and how they kind of were able to participate in the same or different ways, given the, sort of other distractions and that kind of thing.
That's a good question. And as I think about what's going on in the physical room, the room that we were in has the loudest door. It just, when people come in and out, like if they have to pop out to answer the phone or something, it just bangs shut. So it's very obvious when people pop in and out, whereas online it's pretty subtle. You can just pop out and then come back on. So the interaction was less disruptive in that way when people had to go take a call or handle something or that kind of thing. And I felt like because this was a special event, folks really wanted to be there for the whole time. So people were really focused and really interested. And maybe I'll hand over to Melissa to say a little bit more about that, because I know that you had your family there too.
Yes, my family was in the kitchen in the outside door, and the dogs had to be outside because the event was a big deal, right? And I think part of that goes to the culture, right? So we're having an event, it's a celebration. I cannot begin to tell you how honored and humbled I am to have been an award recipient, I guess is the word I want. but I think I would say this also, this happened before COVID. And so when you're thinking about an event like this, timing could be everything. Do you have employees that are going through training and all that? From the conference perspective, David, you asked this question. I was fortunate enough to recently attend an online conference like this, but my director was very clear with me that I was not to be in the office, so to speak. I was still supposed to have my out of office message. I was still supposed to attend the event and get as much information and learning as I can. So that's, again, when I was talking about culture, this is cultural. So if you have people going to training events, conferences, and so on, how do you as a leader support and validate that and let them know that it's okay to be out of the office for this time, so that people don't feel like they have to just quickly run in and out to this wonderful conference between meetings?
Oh, that's a really good point. And I think probably a big question companies will be answering and people will be dealing with and wrestling with moving forward, maybe even a little more than they realize as we think about it. So fantastic. Well, we are at the break and through the time. Thank you so much for a terrific presentation and just really, really interesting work and timely work, of course, as well. And I think that's going to wrap up this session. Thanks to everyone for being here. Please keep communicating on Whova and through other methods and anything else you want to do. And we're going to be off for half an hour, then back on all 3 streams at 3:30. So thanks once again to everyone and all 3 of you, and we'll see you soon.